Welcome to The Explainer. We're all about taking complex source material and breaking it down into clear, engaging explainers for you. So picture this. For years, the online movement QAnon hung on every cryptic message from a figure they called Q. And then, silence. The posts just stopped. It left a huge question mark for everyone following along. What happens now? Well, that silence didn't last forever. A new voice emerged, one that claimed a direct link to the original Q, but with a twist. And that twist signaled a massive shift in the whole movement. All right, let's really get into what went down. All right, so first up, a new chapter begins. We're going to look at who exactly filled that void. The sources we're examining point to this new group called the B Team. And they didn't exactly enter quietly. And right out of the gate, their message was crystal clear. Look, they weren't just taking the reins. They were trying to change the entire game. The core message was that Q wasn't a person you follow anymore. It was an idea you embody. And that, right there, completely flips the script from passively waiting for instructions to taking action yourself. So, the big question is, how does a new, totally anonymous voice build up authority? Let's take a look at the communication style of the main poster, who went by SGB, and see how they started laying out this new philosophy. You know, their communication strategy is actually pretty fascinating when you break it down. What they do is they mix these powerful quotes from really famous people, we're talking JFK, MLK, even Steve Jobs, with their own commentary. It's a really smart play, right? It grounds their new motivational messages in something familiar and powerful. Okay, so here's a perfect example of how they do it. They'll drop a quote, like this one from JFK. It's super powerful, everyone recognizes the source, and boom, it immediately anchors their post in this high-stakes idea of revolution. And then, right after that, comes the pivot. See how they take that really loaded word, revolution, and immediately turn it inward? It becomes a mental battle, something that starts inside you. That's the key to their whole strategy. They borrow the weight of a famous idea and then completely redirect its energy toward their own message of self-reliance and changing your mindset first. So what's the big picture here? Why go through all this trouble to turn Q into an idea? Well, according to the sources, this was all about a deliberate transformation. It's the first major plank in their platform, to evolve the movement from just passively following along to actively participating. And this comparison chart, wow, it just lays out the difference so clearly. You can see the shift right here. You go from the original Q, which was all about one central authority and followers trying to decode these secret messages, these drops, and you move to the B Team's vision, which is all about decentralized leadership, giving people motivational tools, actual playbooks. The whole motto flips from wait for the plan to you are the plan. I mean, you really can't get more direct than this quote right here. They're explicitly saying, we are not your new leaders. Their whole stated purpose is to empower their followers to become leaders themselves. So this isn't just about keeping the movement going. It's about fundamentally rewiring how the whole thing operates. Okay, but how do you actually convince people you're legit? Let's dig into the B Team's playbook. According to online researchers, there's a trail of events that they say points to some serious coordination and insider access. So, first things first. Let's get the definitions straight. When we talk about the B Team, we're talking about a group that positioned themselves very carefully. According to the analysis, they never said, hey, we are Q. Instead, the claim was that they were a separate but very close group with inside knowledge. Basically, the ones tasked with taking the mission to its next phase. And a key piece of what researchers point to as proof of this connection is something they call the baby fist incident. The story goes that the B Team got a hold of a known Q-affiliated account and used it to post in private members-only areas. It was basically their way of saying, see, we have the keys to the house. It was all about demonstrating that insider access to build credibility. So investigators basically pieced together this timeline. They argue it shows a pattern. First, the B Team shows up and claims a connection. Then you have the baby fist incident to prove it. After that, researchers noted that posts from the B team, from Q, and from figures like Dan Scavino were all happening in very close proximity to each other. And finally, you get a former Trump official, Kash Patel, actually interacting with content created by the B team. The argument here is that this all points to something much more coordinated than just random online posts. And this wasn't just about pep talks. The sources claim it got way more tactical. The B team openly talked about using psychological warfare, what they called psy-war. And according to this briefing doc, they weren't just talking about it. They were allegedly distributing playbooks, literally how-to guides, to teach followers how to fight this information war on their own. So where is all of this going? What happens next? Let's see how all these different pieces, the philosophy, the tactics, build towards the B team's final message for the future of the movement. Okay, so here's their stated mission, laid out plain and simple. It's all about creating a force that can sustain itself. Unify. Be the news now. Make your voices heard in unison. It's a call to action. And this brings us to the second pillar of their strategy, to adapt. The goal was to adapt their followers from people who just consume information into people who actively create and spread. And that really brings us to the core philosophy here, which you can boil down to 3 words: evolve, adapt, overcome. First, you evolve from being a follower into a leader. Then you adapt your methods, moving from just decoding messages to actually creating the narrative. And finally, the goal is to overcome any obstacle through that new unity and action. This wasn't just some catchy slogan for them. As we've walked through, this was their entire playbook. And all of it all leads to this: 4 simple words that completely flip the entire narrative on its head. It takes all the responsibility, all the power, and the entire future of the movement and places it squarely on the shoulders of every single follower. And that leaves us with a really provocative question, doesn't it? What happens when the people who were once the audience are told that they are now the main characters?